I don't know about you, but I love putting together gift baskets to give as gifts, especially around Christmas time. Today I'm going to walk you through how I made most of the things that are inside of this crate and how to make the crate itself to give as a gift. Hey everyone, thanks for coming to hang out with me again today. If you're new here, my name's Jess. I'm really excited to share these paper crafts with you. I hope you're excited too. Let's get started. I want to get started by making the crate that all of our stationery gifts are going to go in first. So I grabbed 2 of these little palettes from the Dollar Tree. These come in really handy. They always have these in the Crafter Square section. And I'm also going to be using these super jumbo craft sticks that I get from Walmart. These are a bit bigger than the regular tongue depressor size sticks, but you could use those too. You may just have to adjust your measurements because these are a bit longer than the tongue depressor size. I like to use a guillotine style paper trimmer when I'm cutting things like chipboard, but it also comes in handy for cutting craft sticks. So with these super jumbo craft sticks, I'm going to cut mine down to 6.5 inches. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to cut one of the rounded edges off first, then lay it in my trimmer, measure to 6.5 inches, and cut the other end off. You can see it goes right through the craft stick with no problem. And I'm going to lay it down, measure to 6.5 inches, and cut again. Now for my crate, I already laid these out and I determined that I need 4 on each side of the crate and then 3 across the bottom. So I needed 11 craft sticks altogether, but like I said, if you're using smaller or bigger craft sticks, you'll just have to adjust how many sticks you actually need for your crate. I have all 11 of my craft sticks cut down to size to put my crate together. I'm going to make sure that the openings on this little palette are going to be the top and the bottom, and the sides are going to be the solid pieces. That way I have a little more surface to glue my sticks to. So when I glue wood products, I just use hot glue because I use the Gorilla hot glue, and I tend to find that it holds up pretty well. You can use wood glue if you want to, but like I said, I always have good luck with just the Gorilla glue sticks in my glue gun. So I'm starting with the first stick on the bottom corner of the palette, and you can see that I lined the stick up along the bottom side of the palette as well as the back side. So after I get this first stick into place on the first palette, I'm going to pick up my second palette and I'm just going to add a little hot glue in the same spot right along the bottom corner here. And I'm going to lay the other end of my stick on the palette. So you can see here I have it lined up with the bottom and the back side. I'm going to stand it up just to make sure everything seems squared up. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to hot glue the second stick to the back side. That way I started out by creating a base for myself so that it's a little sturdy. If I were to glue all of the sticks up along the sides, it might start to get a little flimsy, but this way, since I already have my base in place, it's nice and sturdy and it's not so flimsy. So now that I have my 2 bottom sticks, I'm going to start working from the top towards the middle. So I'm going to do the same thing at the top. I'm going to add some hot glue to both of the top corners of my palette, and I'm going to lay my stick on top, making sure that it lines up with the top and the sides of the palette. Once that glue sets a little bit, you can see here my stick is lined up here and here. And I'm going to repeat that again on the back side. Now the reason I like to do it this way is so that there's going to be a little bit of a spacing in between the other sticks. So if I establish my top and bottom sticks first, then I can adjust the spacing as I work towards the middle. And like I said, now I have this nice sturdy box and everything will fit into place. So I'm going to build up my sides here, and I'm going to lay my sticks down first just to see how much space I can actually leave in between each of the sticks. And you can see on the sides here it's not much, but because I already have that top and bottom established, now I know that I can't leave too big of a gap between the other 2 middle sticks. So I'm going to lay my second stick down here with just a tiny gap in between so it has that really cool crate look to it. And I'm going to glue my third stick into place as well. And I'm making sure, like I did with the other ones, that I have the sides lined up as best as I can. Remember, crates are never perfect, so if it's a little off on the sides, that's okay. So here's one side of our crate. I'm gonna go ahead and add the 2 sticks to this side, and then we'll work on the bottom. Okay, now that I have both of my sides built up, and you can see that looks really cute with the pallets on the side, it really looks like a crate, I'm going to glue a few sticks across the bottom. Now, because these pallets aren't perfectly square, they are a bit of a rectangle, the bottom section here isn't as wide, so I can't fit 4 sticks across. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out 3 sticks and just leave a bigger gap in between the middle stick and the 2 end sticks, and that doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind that there's a bigger gap, especially because this is the bottom. Now, one thing I do want to tell you is you don't have to make one of these crates if you're going to give a gift to one of your friends or family. You can buy crates already made. It's just that I like to add as much handmade things as I can to the gifts that I give. So I really like making crates like this. They come together pretty quick and easy, and you don't need that many materials. But if you didn't want to take the time making the crate, you could definitely just buy something, or you could even just use a pretty gift box, add some really cute wrapping paper, or even some scraps from scrapbook pads you might have. You could do a ton of things. You could even just put it in a regular gift box. I think somebody just receiving a gift of handmade stationery items, it doesn't even have to be in a handmade crate, but I like to do this because then they can use the crate year-round. They don't have to just use it at Christmas time. I'm going to keep it pretty neutral in color so that if they want to add, you know, some little decorations to it, they could, and keep it out year-round. So here's our little crate all finished, all put together. Now it's up to you how you want to finish yours off. You could add some stain, you could paint the whole thing, you can leave it like this. I think the natural wood color looks good too. I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick dry brushing of some white chalk paint over mine just to give it a distressed look. That's how I like to do a lot of my things. And I really like dry brushing because it dries fast. So I don't have to sit around and wait for this crate to dry. I'm going to be using the Here Comes Santa Claus paper collection. This is by Echo Park. I love Echo Park and Cartabella. They have some of my favorite papers. This is an older collection, so if I can find it, I'll link it down below, but I'm not sure if they even still make it. The reason I love Echo Park paper is because they always have a ton of these 3x4 cut aparts, which are perfect if you need to make quick cards. I'm going to go through, the first thing I'm going to work on is covering this notepad that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I love doing stuff like this. I like picking up simple little notepads and just giving them a personal touch by covering them with some paper. So I'm going to go through here and pick out a paper that I want to cover my notepad with. And I have already cut into this collection because I was working on another project with it. So I already have some scraps, so I'm going to set those aside for now. And I'm going to pick out a paper for my notepad. I love this plaid. I love plaid at Christmas time. So this is what I want to put on my notepad. And if you decide to use this same style of notepad, this one just has blank white paper in it, but I have seen where they have colored sheets of paper also. So for this notepad, I need to cut down a piece that is going to be 4 inches by 11 1/4. So if you're going to make a bunch of these, this is a great project because you'll actually be able to get 3 notepads covered from 1 sheet of cardstock. The other reason that I really like to use plaid is because it doesn't have a direction to it. So I'm going to start by laying this in and cutting it down to 4 inches. This way, when I wrap it around the notepad cover, it won't look upside down on the inside. That's what's great about using a pattern that doesn't have a direction to it, is that it still looks good from the inside. So now I'm going to lay it in the long ways, and I'm cutting it down to 11 1/4. So I have a strip here that is 4 by 11 1/4. And don't worry, you don't have to remember all of these measurements. I'll make sure that they're all written in the description box for you. So before I get started on covering my notepad, I do want to add some adhesive. I'm using the Scor Tape. This is my favorite brand of double-sided tape, and this is the 3/8 inch size. This is the size I use the most of. And you can see on this notebook, there's already this little black band that goes over the top of the notebook. So I'm gonna run my sticky tape right at the bottom of this black band. That's where I'm gonna start my sticky tape. And I'm just gonna go from one side to the other. And I'm just gonna be careful and make sure I get it as close to that black band as I can. And there's some of my hair in my roll of sticky tape. That happens to me way too often. So now that I have my sticky tape in place, I'm gonna take the back of the sticky tape off, and I'm gonna take my piece of paper that I cut down, and I'm gonna line it up as best as I can right under that band, right at the top of that double-sided tape. And I always like to lay it on and kind of feel the edges of the notepad to see if I have it lined up going the whole way down, and it feels like I do. So I am just going to burnish that in place. Now that I have that established, I can lift it back, and I'm just going to add some of my art glitter glue to the top of the cover. If you guys use art glitter glue, how do you keep track of your little pen? I have this silicone cup here for when I'm making projects with my Cricut to put my little scraps in, and I always just stab it into the side of the cup because I'm always afraid it's going to roll around and I'm going to lose it on my desk. So I'm just going to add art glitter glue the whole to the whole top of the cover here, and I'm making sure that I'm getting pretty close to the edges. I'm not too worried if it doesn't get quite to the edge, because I definitely don't want glue to go onto the other side just yet, because I want to make sure that it doesn't stick to the paper underneath. So now that I have my first side of the notebook covered, because this is a square notebook, I'm just going to press my finger along the bottom, and that's going to kind of give me a guide as to where I need to fold this next piece up. So now that I already have that lightly creased into place, I can just flip this other flap up. That sounds funny. And I'm just going to sharpen that crease with my bone folder. And the same thing over here. This time I'm going to add the art glitter glue to the pattern paper instead of the inside of the notebook. That way I can make sure that I'm getting glue the whole way to the edges of this inside cover. So once I have my glue on there, and I already creased that with my bone folder, so this should flip up pretty easily and fall into place. I can wiggle it around if I need to a little bit. I don't want to press too hard because I don't want to risk ripping this off. Even though this black banding is here, the cover shouldn't come off. And this is really great because the paper that comes on this notebook is so flimsy. Adding this scrapbook paper to it just makes it a lot sturdier. And look how nice that looks just being covered like that. It looks like a really great gift. I'm not going to do anything back here because notebooks, you know, always have this chipboard backing, so I'm not going to do anything. Maybe later I'll put a sticker on there. We'll see. So now I'm going to get back into the paper collection, and I'm going to make decorating this notepad really easy. I'm just going to use one of these cut-aparts. So let me look through here and I'll pick one out. After I looked through all of these cut-aparts, I decided to go with this Santa Claus. I think he looks really cute with that plaid that I picked out for the notepad. But the other reason I picked that out is because most of these other cut-aparts have sayings on them or sentiments on them. So these would be perfect for card fronts. So rather than wasting one on a notebook that has a sentiment on it, I'm just going to use the one that just has Santa Claus on it for the front of my notebook. Now, I don't know how the person is going to use this, whether they're going to keep it in their purse, if they're going to keep it at their desk. So I don't want to add a lot of dimension to the front of my notebook, because if they are slipping it in and out of their pocketbook, I don't want them to get this focal point caught on something and then it rips and then, you know, the notepad looks kind of junky. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to mount this onto a piece of cardstock. And you can see I used my corner chomper, and I did use it on the 1/4 inch side, and I just rounded the corner slightly. So now I'm going to get a piece of black cardstock and create a mat for this image. This is a 3x4 cut apart, so I went ahead and cut my black piece of cardstock down to 3 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch. And because I did round the corners on this, I'm also going to round the corners on that. And here I am sticking my pen in my cup again. I probably should get a pin cushion and keep it on my desk, but you know, my cup's already here, so why bother? Now this card, or this scrap pack, does come with a whole sticker sheet, so I could have just picked out a few stickers for the front of the notepad, but because that black binding is at the top of the notepad already, I thought the black mat for a cut apart would really kind of pull everything together. And I could go crazy here if I wanted to add another designer strip back here or some other kind of cut apart, but I'm going to leave this pretty plain, and I'm just going to go with the 3x4 that's matted on there, and that's going to go ahead and finish up the decorating for this notepad. And I think anybody would really like to receive this. This plaid comes in handy too for when I'm laying this down. I can line it up with one of the stripes so that I know I have it on straight. And there's our little Christmas notepad. I want to get started on the Christmas cards that I'm going to add to my crate. You can buy card bases already made, but since I already have a ton of cardstock in my stash, I'm just going to go ahead and make the card bases. I'm using an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I'm putting it in on the 8.5 inch side, and I'm scoring at 4 1/4 because I want to score once, cut once, and I have 2 card bases. I'm going to make 6 cards to put in my crate, and I prefer cards that open like a book. I know everybody kind of has a preference as to what style of card they like, but I gravitate towards the book style opening on cards. So now that I have my 3 pieces of cardstock, and this is pretty heavy duty, this is the 110 pound cardstock. I have it scored at 4 1/4, so now I can cut at 5 1/2, and I have 2 A2 card size bases from 1 sheet of paper. If you prefer the style of card that folds open the other way, you just want to score at the 5 1/2 inch mark and then cut at 4 1/4. So everybody has a preference. There's no right or wrong. This is crafting. We're all allowed to have our opinions, right? We can all have our favorites. So now that I have my 6 card bases cut, I can go ahead and score along, or fold along the score mark. And there's my card base. And I like this style of card because you can either open it like a book, or you can still do it landscape and have it this way. So depending on how you're going to decorate it, you know, you can decide how you want it. But I'm going to go ahead and get all of these folded and creased, and then we can start decorating. Now that I have all of my card bases made, I went through and I was trying to decide if I wanted to use the cut aparts or the sticker sheet for the fronts of my cards. And just doing a quick look at the sticker sheet, I was able to count out 6 stickers that have really cute sayings on them. So I decided to use a sticker as the focal point of my cards. Now, I'm not much of a card maker, if we're being honest. I tend to go with really simple designs. So I picked out 2 pattern papers that I like from the pack, and these I would almost consider to be solids because the pattern on them is really subtle. This is a really subtle diamond pattern, and this is a really subtle snowflake pattern. So I'm going to cut the bases for all of my cards out of these 2. So I'm going to do 3 in the green, 3 in the red, just keeping it traditional Christmas colors, which I love. See, like, this is a little too bold for me for card making because it gets so busy that I would get a little overwhelmed, I think, when I was making a card. So I tend to stick with backgrounds that are a little bit more subtle. And because this is an A2 card size base, this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to cut this mat down to 4 by 5 1/4. Actually, I'm going to start with the 5 1/4. That way I can get 3 across. Okay, so we're going to cut once at 5 1/4, and then we'll turn it, and I'm going to cut 3 bases at 4 inches. And after I get this second one cut, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is still 4 inches because sometimes these papers are just a tad bigger. This one looks pretty good, actually, so we're right at 4. So we have 3 of the green, and I'm going to go ahead and cut 3 of the red the same way. So I have all 6 of my pieces cut, and because I cut them a 1/4 inch shorter on both sides, then when I go to put these on my cards, I'll have that nice 1/8 of an inch border the whole way around. Now, like I said, I had already started working on this paper pack. I was using it for a different project, so I do have a few scrap pieces of paper. I love this stripe. I love this holly berry. I'm going to cut some strips out of these to create little stripes on the card. You'll see what I'm saying. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to cut it down to a 1/2 inch strip. So I'm going to line that up. When I cut thinner strips like this, I always like to make sure that my blade is in the center of the paper first, because then I don't run the risk of shifting my paper around when I'm trying to cut these really thin strips like this. I don't know how many of these I'm going to need. This piece, I probably can get 3. Yeah, I can get 3 out of this scrap piece, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut 3 of these at a 1/2 inch. Okay, now that I have these cut, because this piece is 5 1/4 tall, I'm going to cut these strips down to 5 1/4 as well. So same thing, line that up 5 1/4, and I should get 2 out of each of these. I just realized that this pattern's a little bit different than this one. Oh, this has snowflakes on the back. Maybe I want to use that one. All right, let's cut this strip off first, and then I'll cut some 1/2 inch strips from this scrap. This is what's fun about trying to use up your scrap pieces. You know, you can kind of play around, especially with this double-sided paper. You can kind of decide which patterns you like better together. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple of these 1/2 inch strips out of this paper, and then I'll show you how we're going to make these. I'll start with 3 since we did 3 of the other one. Okay, now for these ones, because my card base is just 4 inches across, is that right? Yeah, 4 inches. I'm going to cut these 3 strips down to just 4 inches. Because I want one strip to go vertical on my card and one strip to go horizontal. Okay, so let's get started on just one of the green cards and one of the red cards. So obviously, since this is a red background, I probably am not going to want to use this pattern on this one, but I could flip it around. Let me zoom in a little. Okay, I could flip it around and I could use this one on that card too. On this green one, I think either one would look good, but I do like how the red stands out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead with the red one. And you can see I'm laying each of these, let me line these up on my grid a little bit better. I'm lining these up about 1/3 of the way up the page. I'm not too worried if it's exactly 1/3. I'm okay with just kind of eyeballing it. Now the same thing with these strips. Now this was actually, I think, a sheet of cut-aparts, so the back side of these looks a little weird. So I think for both of these cards, I'm just going to stick, yeah, see, that looks a little strange on the back. So we're just going to stick with stripes for this one. And same thing, I'm going to come in about 1/3 of an inch from the side on both of these. This is going to get a white stripe too, about 1/3 of an inch. And that's my basic decoration for these two. I think it looks cute. You could play around with these stripes a little bit if you wanted to. You could make them more in the center. Actually, that might look kind of cute if I cut another strip of the same paper to look like a present. So I'm just going to throw on some music while I work on these cards. I'm going to get all the stripes done first, and then we'll pick out the stickers. Alright, so here's my 6 card bases. So I really like the patterns that I had to use as scraps because now I can decide, do I want my card to go this way? Do I want it to go this way? Do I want it to go this way? Do I want it to go this way? So because there's no direction to any of these patterns, that means that however my sticker is going to work best, I can either choose to do a portrait or a landscape card, and it doesn't matter. This can be on the left-hand side, it can be on the right-hand side, it can be at the top It can be at the bottom. However, it's going to work best with my stickers. So now the fun part. I'm going to go through and pick out 6 of the stickers I like the best. I might even use some of these little other pieces to do a little embellishing. We'll see. I think this is the most fun about doing handmade cards, is whenever you have stickers like this that kind of do the work for you, you don't have to think too much. And this is what makes crafting really fun, right? Whenever you're not too stressed out about it. And everybody loves getting a handmade card. So no matter how it turns out, the person that's getting it is going to love it. So same thing I did with when I was checking the stripes on my cards. I didn't want to put the red background with a red stripe. And same thing here. I don't really like how the red tag would look on a red card. So if the background of the tag or sticker is red, then I'm probably going to lay it on my green cards. So I'm going to get started with my green ones first, and this is the first sticker I'm going to use. So I'm going to go through and see where I like it the best, and maybe I'll flip these around. And once I get all of my sayings on, then we'll be able to finish the cards. Alright, so here's all of my card bases laid out. This is a great stopping place. You could stop here. You don't have to add anything else. I think these look great. There's just enough interest with the 2 striped patterns, the pattern in the background, and then the fun little sticker. And you can see some of them I did go ahead and do landscape. I really like this one. It looks like a package to me because these 2 coordinate, and then this kind of looks like the little gift tag. I think that looks super cute. After I get all of these glued onto my card bases, then I'm going to go through with just a little bit of bling and dress them up a little bit more. Look how cute these are already. I love using paper pads like that because the paper's already coordinated. You know, all of the reds match, all of the greens match. So no matter what you lay down, it's going to look nice. Now these cards are about done. I'm not going to stamp anything on the inside. You can do that if you like. I'm just choosing not to because I like to have a lot of space to write. But the one thing that I am going to do before I finish these off is add just a little bit of bling. I think these are just from the Dollar Tree. They've been in my stash forever. You can see it's just a partial sheet. And these are the kind of bling that are actually connected. So if I pick one up, they're connected to the other ones. And I always like to add bling in 3s. That's kind of an old trick, you know, that people used to do. So since I have 6 cards, I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And I'm just going to cut off 3. So these are all connected with a clear adhesive in between, and I can just peel one row up. It's already connected there, see? And I'm just going to go through each card. If there's a little bit of extra adhesive, I don't know if you can see that on the edge there, probably not. I'm just going to make sure that that is cut off though, because I think that just makes it look a little neater. So I'm going to go through in each card and find a good spot to add a row of 3. So for this one, I'm going to add this one in right above this little ribbon here. And you can kind of wiggle it around until it gets in place, until it's all lined up. And that just adds a little extra touch, and it doesn't add too much bulk on the front of the card. So let me go through here and add my little bling in different places. This is the other thing that's nice about having these stripes on the card. It kind of helps you and guides you as to where you need to line these up at. They're kind of already established there, so it makes it a lot easier to put it on. But sometimes it's nice to have, you know, I have the focal point in the center here, so rather than trying to pick an area, I think I'm just going to line, I'm going to flip this around, it's a little bit easier for me to do upside down. I think I'm just going to add my bling to the side up here. There we go. There, it has a little interest in the corner there. And same thing with the red ones here. This is why I like using the clear bling, because it does go with just about everything. Should I put this one on top? Let's try that. I'll put that right up here. So you can see it's already in a group of 3. No matter where you put it, it's going to look nice. And it just gives it that extra little touch without too much work. And this one, I think this one should go in the corner again, maybe down in the bottom corner. So let me flip this around. Turn it around however it's easiest for you. It's just easier for me to see if I kind of turn the corner towards me a little bit. And that way I can still stay in frame. And we got one more here. So this one, I think I'm going to put underneath this stripe. And there's a hair again. Maybe off to the side here. Line that up with the stripe. And there we go. All 6 of our handmade cards are finished. And this is a great way if you need a card at the last minute, you know, just throw these couple little things on. It's a great scrap buster if you have scraps out of your paper pads that you need to use up. And I always love finding use for the stickers and the paper pads as well. Now, one more thing before I add these to my gift crate. I'm going to pick one out for the front. I think I'm going to put that one on the front. I'm not going to make envelopes for these cards. I just have A2 envelopes on hand that these cards will fit into. You can see these are A2 size envelopes, so these cards will fit in there nice. And one thing that I like to do when I'm giving a set of cards to someone is I like to take a hint from the cards you get in the store. This is just an extra step. You don't have to do that. But because I do have a strip of paper here still left over, this may be a little bit too wide. No, I'm going to go with it. I don't know how wide this is. Let's see. This is about 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to take the envelopes that I'm going to be giving with my cards, and I'm just going to create a belly band for around my envelopes. Every time you buy a set of cards in the store, it always has a clear belly band around it to hold the envelopes together. So since I already have this scrap out, it's already cut, it fits around my cards, and it's just going to add an extra little decoration. Since I am going to be putting this in a crate as a gift, it'll just be another way to dress it up. So I'm just going to wrap this strip around my envelopes to hold them all together, add a little bit of glue, and now all my envelopes are together with a belly band that matches my cards. Isn't that cute? Along with my little stationery gifts for my crate, I do want to add a few treats. So I'm going to add some tea bags to my crate. I have 2 different tea bags that I just pulled out of my cupboard here. And I'm going to make a little tea folder for these. I'll give you the measurements for these, but depending on what tea bags or brands of tea you use, you might have to adjust it a little bit. And you can see this Bigelow tea bag is slightly bigger than the Twinings? Let me know in the comments how you say it. So I based my measurements off of this Bigelow brand tea bag because it is a little bit bigger. So here I have a piece of cardstock. You can see this is a scrap from when I made the cards, and I cut this down to 6 by 4 1/4. And this time I will use this side just to add another print to my little crate that I'm using here. So I'm going to put this in on my 6-inch side, and I am going to score it right down the middle at 3 inches. I'm going to give it 1 turn and score it at 1 1/4. That's the only scoring that we need to do for this. And here's my bone folder. So now I'm going to fold this in half on that 3-inch side and fold up my little 1 1/4 side. Give it a good crease. I'm going to open this back up, and then this is going to be the outside of my little tea folder. So where I scored this 1 1/4, you can see this is where my 1 1/4 line is right here. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut a little triangle out of this. This is folded in half. Remember, we folded it in half. I'm just going to make a small little folder. So starting at this score line, I'm just going to take a little triangle out right here, just to take out a little bulk for when I fold it in half. So see my angle there? So when I open this back up, now I have these 2 flaps here. So before I glue these 2 flaps down, I am going to fold my folder up. So here you can kind of see how this would be like a little school folder, like a miniature school folder. I'm going to fold everything into place, and the reason I cut that little triangle out here is just to take some of the bulk out so that when I do fold it in half, it lays nice and flat. I'm going to use my corner chomper on the 1/4 inch side, and I'm just going to round these 2 corners. So when I fold it in half, it's going to be the 2 corners on the right. Now that my corners are rounded, I want to glue my little flaps up. I'm only putting glue on this outside edge. So right here, I'm going to add just a very small bead of glue. You don't need much. This isn't meant to be like a permanent thing. You just want something a little fancy for the tea. And then same thing on this flap, just right along the outside. I'm just adding the tiniest little bead of glue and gluing that down. And now you can see I have this cute little folder for my tea. I can decorate this however I want. You could add a ribbon, but like I said, this is not something that's meant to be kept. It's just something to add a little decoration. So I don't think I'm going to add a ribbon to mine. I'm going to let this glue dry for a minute before I add in my tea bags and before we finish. I'm going back into my sticker sheet here, and I'm just looking for a little something to put on the front. I like this Be Merry and Bright because the background of it is a solid color, so it should stand out nice on this folder. And then, oh, there's a couple little snowflake circles here. So let's grab a couple of these. I don't have enough fingers to get all of them. There we go. And we'll lay the Be Merry and Bright down. Like I said, this isn't supposed to be something that they, you know, hold on to forever. So I'm not going to put a lot of time and effort into decorating it. I just want it to look cute in the crate. So let's add in a few of these little snowflakes to the sides here. We'll do the red and the gold over here if I can get it off of my fingernail. Probably should have used my little pokey tool. Okay, so there's a little red and gold, and we'll add this green one here. There's a little white space here that would look good. All right, so that's simple enough, right? Just a couple little stickers on our folder. And now I can slip in my tea bags. This is the smaller one over here. And like I said, this Bigelow one was a little bit bigger, so that's what I base these measurements off of. But you can see there's plenty of room inside that folder, and it closes up and holds our little tea bags. There we go. Just like that. How cute. Now before I put everything in my crate, I do want to show you that I did cut a piece of chipboard down to fit in the bottom of my crate because I'm going to add some paper shred, and because these slats along the bottom were a little bit farther apart than the sides, I don't want any of that paper shred to fall out. So I'm just throwing some chipboard in the bottom there. I'm not gluing it in. It can come out. I just want to keep the paper shred in place. And I did want to show you too, before I put all of my Christmas items in my crate, if you're running short on time and you want to give a gift that's not necessarily for Christmas, you can put a crate like this together with some pre-made items. So you can see here, the Dollar Tree sells Hallmark cards still. I picked up a 6-pack of just blank note cards. It has these cute little plants on it. I also picked up a pack of stickers that would coordinate with the cards so they could seal the envelope shut with these stickers if they wanted to, or decorate the inside of the cards. And then the Dollar Tree always has a big selection of already decorated notepads. This one is a lined notebook, kind of like a school notebook, and it has a pretty glittery cover. And then of course I could throw in my tea bags. I could make another folder or just put tea bags in on its own. I'm gonna add a little bar of chocolate because chocolate's always a good idea, and a pen too so they can write in their cards. So you can see here, this crate, because like I said, I didn't put any kind of holiday theming on the outside. I could just line all of this stuff up inside of this crate with some paper shred, and this would make a really nice gift any time of year. And if you're short on time, you don't have to make the stuff that goes in it. You can buy the stuff already made. But since I already took the time to make my stuff, I want to add my handmade goodies to the inside of my crate. Now this step, of course, isn't necessary, but I already had some clear bags on hand, so I decided to go ahead and package my things up in clear bags just to make it a little bit more finished looking. This was a pretty big bag. Here, I'll show you here. The size on the package isn't on here. I think I got these from Amazon. If I did, I'll make sure that I have them linked below, but you can see they're a pretty big bag. But because they are so big, I was able to fit all 6 cards and 6 envelopes in here. I slid them in, and then I folded the back almost the whole way over to the other side and sealed it shut. Here's that little belly band. It slid down on my envelopes, but I still think that looks cute. It's just a nice little touch on the back side here where the envelopes are. So you can see I filled my crate with some paper shred. I'm going to go ahead and tuck these cards in the back. And then I did the same thing with my little notepad. I just stuck it, whoops, I just stuck it in a clear bag just to help protect it too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stack these cards up in the back so they're a little bit higher. And then I'll move some of the paper shred out so that I can fit my little notepad in front of the cards. And then, of course, our little tea folder. I didn't put that in a clear bag because I just didn't see the need to. So I'll tuck my little tea folder in here. I'm going to put in my little candy bar and a pen. This is just from the Dollar Tree. It's a 4-pack. Nothing fancy. You could tie a bow on it if you want. And then I always like to add a little bit of extra paper shred after I get a gift basket or gift box or anything packed. I like to add a little bit extra after I get the things in, just so it sticks out from the top a little bit. And there's our finished little gift basket. If you wanted to, you could use some of that cellophane and wrap it up around and finish it off, you know, tie a little bow on the top if you wanted to, but I like giving it just like this. If you want to personalize it, you could add a monogram to the front of the crate, but I think having a nice plain crate like this will be a part of a great gift because the person can, like I said, use it year round. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I love paper crafts. I love making gift sets like this, so this was a lot of fun to me. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas to add more things to this. And one thing I want to mention real quick, I think this would make a great craft fair idea. So if you like to create paper crafts and set up at craft fairs, maybe think about putting crates like this together when people go to craft shows. I know I'm one of them. I always look for gifts that are already made up that I can give as is, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy giving this as a gift, especially because so much of it is handmade, and it would just make a really nice gift for a neighbor, a teacher, a co-worker, anything like that. All right, everyone, thanks so much for hanging out with me again today. I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.